Christ, the loss of legs. My occupation, in essence, not complacent. Block the banquet, stop the computation. I'ma make the coda, fools just wanna make the quota. They can't rock around here, they need baking soda. This a hydra, no way they taking over. Lay them below the basement with snakes and cobras.
All I do is get stuck stealing and applying, you know?
Yeah. I know
what do you think, Jar of Pickles?
Let us know.
Good. Thank you so much for...
okay. Are you sure? Is this your definitive answer? All right. Clear. Awesome.
Thank you, Jar of Pickles.
I love
Thank
you,
you
Jar
for...
of Pickles.
This is the Inkpulp podcast.
Hey, there it is. We're live.
The best, the creme de la creme of
I think
Inkpulp podcast.
I think we're going to discover something today, Maddie.
Yeah, that we don't need that other fucker.
I was gonna say it nicer, but I think I like the fact that you get to the core of it. You don't have any don't have any restrictions like I do.
No,
you're brothers after all.
Yeah, we're brothers. You know, we can tell shit straight to our face, each other's faces. So that's a good thing about being brothers.
Right. Do you want to wait for him in regards to your what do you call it? In regards to your screen there, or do you want to tell the story now?
What story?
The one where you accused me or accused us of trying to sabotage your success.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, like a couple of days ago, I think during the weekend or right before the weekend, Jamie, our amazing editor, contacts me in private. And he's like, Matteo, I just noticed something by editing the episodes. You're the way you're holding the microphone is completely like wrong. You're basically the part where you should be talking is facing the camera. So it's completely the other way around. It's supposed to be. And so now for the millions of people that are listening to this episode, you can go back to the first episode where I just received the microphone, which, by the way, you paid for it. It was a gift from you. So, all right. So thank you for that. But also fuck you for making me change it. Like right after the episode, you and the other dwarf we're just like, oh, by the way, we didn't want to tell you during the episode, but your audio is pretty weird. And I think it's the screen that you have right in front of you. So you should turn it. And you know, we tested it live, and you thought, oh yeah, this is the way to go. This is better, definitely better. So thank you for making me look like a fucking asshole for like 10 episodes. Thank you.
Okay, listen. I don't know if you're getting the correct information. By the way, Jamie's going to end up listening to this later. So it's not that he's got the microphone facing the wrong way. And this is the honest to goodness truth. You know, when you have the screen, basically it prevents plosive. So you see this fucking, piece of styrofoam in front of me, right?
Yeah.
It's effectively trying to keep that rush of air from hitting the diaphragm of the microphone.
Yeah.
So the pop isn't very obvious, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what it also did was keep you from, it kept you away from the microphone, which is effectively like an inch and a half to 2 inches, no more than 3, right?
Okay. Got it.
So by moving it out of the way, it brought you closer to the microphone, and we could hear you better. So we weren't lying to you.
I think you're kind of aware still. I don't believe you yet, but we'll see.
Yeah.
So
we'll see with this episode whether or not.
Yeah. So basically, what happened is for all these issues, these episodes, not issues. I was talking like a comic book artist, I was talking basically. I was speaking here in this area instead of
Yeah.
this area. So, but we'll see. We'll see what Jamie says after
at the end of the
episode.
day. At the end of the day, did you sound better or worse? In my opinion, objective opinion, by the way, not subjective. My objective opinion, which makes it not opinion, it makes it fact. You sounded great. You sounded amazing. Jamie
because my
planted
voice
a little
is incredible.
seed of doubt. Well,
But, that's the product at the base is amazing. So whatever happens to it,
I can only knock you down so many times, but you have this weird ability to just keep getting back up and moving forward. Yeah. I have two questions for you, and I realize that there are times when I know you want to interject, but because of your proper upbringing.
And what's the second one?
Because of your proper upbringing, you're never the kind of guy that interrupts the conversation. So this is more a compliment to your mother and father than it is about you. But, I'd realize that there are times when I know that you want to interject, but because one, you've got like this delayed internet that's about 5 minutes behind like the fact that we can have this conversation. By the way, let me not skip over the fact that Sean isn't here, right? We decided to do this last minute.
Nobody noticed, by the way.
Yeah. Nobody cares. I honestly believe I didn't do my typical intro of thanking him for being here. I didn't get the episodes. I think I got relatively right. I didn't do that bit. I didn't say hey to you. I didn't say hey to him. But nobody cared. I think we're just moving right along. Nobody even noticed. Like, oh, Sean's not there. We have to point it out for people to realize, oh, the other guy with the beard.
Yeah, especially now that we have the camera switching. They'll never notice, because before you could see the three squares with our faces in it. But now we don't even have that problem.
I think literally Jamie can switch to a camera view of like a photo of a jar of pickles, and it will be the same exact fucking
same effect. How you say apport to the show.
Yeah. Same level.
At least we got the visuals
impact, what I mean?
with pickles.
Yeah, if you look at the trajectory of tracking of customer interest, it just shoots up when the jar of pickles comes onto the screen. So anyway, my point is, I know that sometimes we're in the middle of a conversation, in the middle of a show. One, the technology is limiting because you're in a, what do you think? 3 second, 5 second delay? 3 second?
No. From seeing your reaction to what I say, I would say 2 seconds or 1.5. Something like that.
Okay. So not too bad, but sometimes I know there's opportunities where you're like, oh, I have a question about that, but the moment passes and you can't interject. So, and then the other one, I think it's just generally our nature, especially when we're with guests, you make it, we try to make it about us, except for me. I try to make it as much about me as possible,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I want to make the focus about you and your missed opportunities. Let me ask you something. Okay.
Yeah.
What would make you quit this show? Is there anything?
I'm trying
that's a nice question.
Jesus.
What is out there? What would come out? What would come to your path that would make you say I'm brothers with that guy? But dude, I would quit this show in a heartbeat.
Jesus. This is a hard one to answer. Do you have an answer for that? Did you ask yourself that?
Yeah, anything else is my answer. Is something
or is this a way to tell me that you're about to quit the podcast?
Yeah, this is my not so subtle way of telling you I'm about to quit. No, the reason why I bring it up, and maybe this will help you understand it better. Is because regardless of how many people that we have on the show, right? Regardless of we're getting really great feedback. You know what I mean? People are saying, "Oh, these guys." As a matter of fact, I just saw. Is it Jonathan? I can't say Jonathan's last name. Is it Gaplion?
Oh, Galapion.
Galpion?
Yeah, Galapion.
Galpion. I just saw him tweet about. Is it still called tweeting? Is it because they changed the name to X now? is it sweeting? Is it X sweeting? I don't know what it's called.
Let's call it.
I just saw him post on Twitter. I just saw him post on Twitter that, you know, we are, what do you call this? These guys know how to do a podcast. And a handful of people responded to the positive. I was like, well, that's really cool that these guys are paying attention. I suspect that they're listening, or they're being very nice because they know your power. You know, they know that you're a kingmaker, right?
Yeah.
So I thought, like, oh, that's interesting. It's great that it's getting positive response. But to be perfectly honest with you, I'm not paying attention. It was just, it's my excuse is just like, I haven't spoken to Matteo in a week, or Sean in a week, or whatever it is. Mostly you, less Sean. And I thought, like, I think I would just still do it if it's just us, you know, if it's just a phone call, you know, we just happen to be turning the record button on. What do you think?
Yeah, to be honest with you, and now I have an answer for your previous question. Probably I would quit it if it wasn't fun, you know, if it turned just to be like, okay, our goal is to inform people about comics, and it's just going to be a technical podcast. I don't know to say it in other terms, you know, in other ways. Yeah. So if it becomes one of those, you know, really, really specific things, I don't think I'm gonna enjoy it for that long, you know. That's why, and I think it's what I try to bring is the, you know, human relationship. That's why, you know, basically out of an hour, usually 30 minutes is just us joking. And I think that's one of the things that people like, you know, because by joking, we're gonna, you know, even without wanting to, we're gonna start creating, you know, all the insides jokes and the stuff. I see a lot of people that makes jokes about, you know, Mr. Freeze or the fact that I pay bots to you know, increase the viewers of the podcast.
Which, by the way, those aren't jokes. Those aren't inside jokes. Those are really obvious,
absolutely,
really straightforward. Yeah,
I mean, people are making jokes about it, but it came from a really serious thing that actually happened. It keeps happening, you know. I have constant.
You're losing money on this show. I thought
that travels from a bank account to, you know, mysterious bank accounts, like foreign bank accounts.
You're ruining your credit right now as we speak. Every time that you pay these Russian and Vietnamese bots. By the way, the Vietnamese bots are significantly more expensive.
Yeah, definitely. Because, go ahead.
I don't think of the show as like the thing that we put on YouTube. Obviously, there's a lot of professional things that are happening behind the scenes, or, you know, not so behind the scenes, right? Like, you take a look at our setup, you take a look at all the stuff that we've invested into, not the least of which Jamie, by the way. There is something about those, what would you call them, Maddie? Like the clips that he edits together that we put on social media? Yeah,
the clips. Yeah, the social clips.
Yeah, they're fucking magical.
Yeah,
they're
great.
Really great, right?
It really makes...
I don't want to say that there's a...
It really makes us look like we know what we're doing. Like, we almost seem like really serious professionals at this, which is amazing.
Because we don't know what we're doing, right?
No.
So I'm glad that Jamie does, but I see something that really works every time. And I think we won't get it this time around because Sean's not with us, you know?
Yeah, we don't have the target.
I think it's two things. That's number one. Number one is Sean is a really great, how would you say, in old comedy terms, television comedy.
To me, I translated it. Yeah. Right? I translated it from the Italian, because in Italian it's the target. It's called the target. So it's the one that everybody shits on, and all the juice come from everybody else shitting on that person.
He's got, what's great about Sean is that he's not just not just when we're recording, but it's just generally, you know, he's got a really, really good chin for it. And I think it's because he trusts us.
Yeah.
And boy, is that a fucking mistake. Anyway, my point is, without him on this show, I don't know if Jamie can put together that clip, because Sean is the setup. You know what I mean? Like it's always like
you know what he's gonna do? Like Jamie is gonna precisely, this is what he's gonna do, is gonna cut this clip of us talking about him. So he's gonna be the target even when he's not here in person, you know?
Or he's gonna cut to that fucking jar of pickles and just put Sean's name at the bottom of it. All right, that was it. Sean, it is to say that we miss you. We don't. Oh, by the way, what is he doing? Does it say more that this thing that you are effectively paying for out of your own pocket, ruining your global credit?
How do you call it? The money jar. The person who puts the money in it. So now it's for him. It's just like, okay, I've done my job. I found the chicken in Italy. The guy
he's found his sugar daddy. You know what I mean? He's found his. He found the Italian ATM that he can just keep pressing the button. And money just keeps.
And bots are
what is he doing? Arriving. What is he up to? Can we expose it? Is it private? Is that what he's up to?
No, all I know is that when we were, deciding all the scheduling for the podcast, he said that it wasn't gonna be available. I think he's away, like physically away somewhere,
quote unquote away. What I was gonna say is that you are so much more invested in making this show, because last minute I was just like, hey guys, do you want to get one together? Because I know that I'm traveling tomorrow. And then you were like, yeah, no, absolutely. Let's go, man. But you also said, well, Sean's not going to be here, but if it's just you and me. And in my heart, I was like, do you remember when Rich Friend you were, a part of you was like, hey, we have Rich on, but he was having technical issues. And if it doesn't work, you were that much more excited because it was an opportunity for us to talk.
The same
right?
now with Sean not being here.
The spirit of that is in my heart. I was like, Sean's not going to be here. Let's not wait an hour. Let's just press the go button right now, because who knows if he'll show up by accident.
The only thing that we have to consider is that we're going to need a good 15 minutes. A good 15 minutes are going to be, we need to fill them, because Sean not being here, we don't have those 15 minutes of jokes on him.
Coach. Listen, right when I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my phone later. I have a brand new jar of pickles in my fridge. And for 15 minutes, I'm just going to it's like an unboxing. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to walk to my fridge
and we'll cover
get the brand new jar of pickles.
Yeah, absolutely.
Put it on my counter, that really satisfying jar turn, and you hear it pop because the seal comes off, and I'm going to take a pickle out and I'm going to put it on the plate. And that's the value.
And as we speak, sometimes one of us should be like, and what do you think about that, Sean? And then we move the camera to the pickle. Silence.
I'm going to try to
5 minutes, and then I'm going
to make a mental note.
Jamie, make it happen.
Dude, there was something that you said. There was something that you said the last time that we were all just kind of hanging out, and we were saying so many great points at that show. I was like, fuck, I want to follow up on that, but we move on from it.
Yeah, there's only quickly. 1 hour. It's so hard to make everything fit in that hour, So
yeah. And what do you think about that, Sean? Nothing? Okay, we're back to this part of the show now. I think what I love about that interview is when we don't cut to you, but when you're doing your bit, right? Yeah. You really give it some careful thought, and then Sean goes, and then we throw it to Sean, and Sean goes like, no, I agree with that, and blah, blah, blah. And we go like, yeah, Sean, what do you agree with? And he goes, no, that's all. I just agree with it. I'm like, fuck, man, this guy.
You got nothing.
He has nothing but the agreement, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let me try to refer back to what we were talking about in that show. We were talking about, number one, just the overall anxiety of people who are about to break into the business,
Yeah.
Or people who are trying to make their way through the business and how difficult it is for them. I was going to ask you, is there stuff in similar to the spirit of that headspace? Is there stuff that you cared about back then that you're like, I really not really big on my list to care about now as far as the things I'm paying attention to? Or is there things now
in terms of
if
anything,
you go back,
like in terms of anything?
Yeah, just
stuff
generally,
that I worried about.
We can go. Yeah, we can go as broad as like how you conducted yourself as a human being, or as specific as it is to like as it applies to your job. And, you know, the second part is there stuff that you could go back and go like, listen, do this instead. You'd be so much better off if you focus on this instead of this thing that you were really hyper worried about or hyper concerned about.
Yeah, I think that the thing that worried me a lot, and now it's you know, now it's pretty natural to me, is I was really worried that I wouldn't like my stuff, if it makes sense.
No, tell me, what do you mean?
Yeah, about not being happy about my pages and my drawings, you know, like
really?
if I had to imagine being a reader, and you know, I putting myself in the role of the reader and not liking what I saw, that was my worry. You know?
Holy shit! Really? So somewhere in the back of your mind, you were having this like, well, it's not a crisis, but it was like this moment where you're like, oh, I am going to look at my own work and go like, dude, this isn't very good.
Not so much as a fear, like, because in general, I gotta say, this might sound really arrogant, but you guys, everybody's used to me being arrogant on this show, so it's fine.
Yeah.
But I was always that was always in the back of my head. Like, I gotta make sure that I gotta love what I'm doing first, you know. And which is more or less like, I was thinking about it today, actually, this morning. It really, to me, in my head, it really sounds like, you know, on planes, when they give you all the instructions before landing, before taking off. And one of the rules is, in case of an emergency, you know, the masks will fall off. Make sure that you have yours. Yeah, the oxygen masks. Make sure that you have yours first, and then help others. And there's usually it's a kid right next to you, and and so that's always been my concern, like, of not liking what I was doing, you know, because it can happen, you know.
Well, first of all, let me comment on that really quick, okay?
But again, sorry.
1.5-2
I wasn't worried, meaning
that.
Meaning, I want to expand on that. I wasn't worried, meaning that, I used not to like my stuff. I'm used to like my stuff, but I remember from day one having the need of liking what I was doing, which then later became a conscience thing, you know? So now, if you ask me, I'm telling you, but back then, if you asked me, I wouldn't have an answer, that kind of answer, at least, you know, because I didn't know. But I'm noticing now in retrospect that it's something that it was really planted in my head. You know, you gotta like, you know, what you're doing.
That is so much to unpack, but let me go back a couple steps. Okay.
Yeah.
Number one, the plane analogy with the oxygen, right? That is the worst analogy you could, like, I was grasping with you, trying to find the fucking handles so that we.
Well, I still appreciate the fact that you kept saying, No. I was like, it was a great poker face.
If you go back a couple seconds, like, do the rewind thing, you could see my face going like, it's a needle skip face. You know what I mean? Like, what the hell happened to that record? But also, it's really telling that in order to describe your career or that portion of your brain,
Yeah.
you think of it in the emergency
Oh
landing.
no, don't use that as
of a
as an
plane
example. No, but meaning something important in general, no? So
I'm giving you a hard time, man.
fine.
You know me. So there was actually something that you said that was fascinating to me in regards to like, the headspace that you need to be in order to, like you said, oh, this is what we're already used to us being arrogant,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think that you were going to go down that thing of like, just making sure that you are okay. But I think it's something similar. Let me explain myself. Like because of when I was coming up as an artist, very, very young, like I had to come up with a mechanism
Mm-hmm.
to cope with the idea that number one, I never went to school. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of the guys I was working with, you can tell they went to like some trade school for it, like a Cal Arts or something like that. So I came up with an internal mechanism that because you're young, you're not you, but like I wasn't self-aware of how I was broadcasting that to people, that mechanism. Okay. So it came off as very arrogant. Like I was I had to engage this level of confidence that wasn't backed up by anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That didn't come from a place of like history, of experience, of whatever it is. Yeah. So that level of confidence crossed right into arrogance.
Yeah.
Right.
You call that thing in the States, fake it until you make it?
That's it. That's perfect. That's the perfect term. I just, because, and I think, but I gotta be honest with you, it got me through a lot of stuff. Like that sort of like attitude got me through a lot of things that in some other cases would have just made people doubt themselves so much,
Yeah.
So I think that, and I guess my message, if there's anything that I can take away from that, is there's a portion of a young person's career in which you've really got to engage that fake it until you make it muscle, because overly focusing on the things that you can't do, has a tendency to just restrict you in the worst way possible. The counter, obviously, is probably just as bad, because if you fake it too much, the thing that happens is it will help highlight where all of your inadequacies are, right?
Yeah.
But if you really need to crash through that very first sort of like wall, I think there's a part of you that has to engage that sort of, unbridled arrogance, where you're not having to overthink everything, of just like, you just got to fucking do it. And accept the fact that it may be bad,
Yeah,
but you just got to do it. I'm sorry, I derailed it. You were talking about like this portion where you can look back now and reflect on. You weren't thinking about it back then, right? Yeah. But you genuinely can see now. You're like, oh, I was doing that,
Yeah, no, absolutely. And now it's a how do you call it? It's basically an automatic thing for me. So now I gotta like what I'm doing, and this is automatic in me. And it's I think one of the the things that makes me, if we wanna say that I'm a successful comic book artist, I think that's one of my my thing, And tell me.
I was going to say, like, is it one of the things that's successful is because you managed to almost, you're reflecting on it now and you're saying you were doing it, but naturally and organically, right?
Yeah.
What you're saying is that you're looking back and going like, because of that or accidental organic thing, it's brought me to a level of success. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm realizing now that, that was, that's constitute an important thing for my career later, because after that, that's what I've always done. Even when Marvel hired me in the first place, they hired me looking at a project that I did for Image Comics that was super, super cartoony. It's called Hyperkinetic. I think it's the first book that I brought to you at your table when I met you the first time. And so they hired me to do a short Deadpool story. And what I did is completely change the style because that's what I wanted to do then. You know, I don't want to do, like that's in the past. The book that you saw, it's in the past. So I told them, listen, I'm going to change the style. I'm going to do something else. And they were like, oh, right. Well, we'll see how it looks like if we like it or not. I'm like, yeah, you're going to like it. Like, I'm going to like it, you know, and and I know it's going to be better than what I used to do. So, trust me on that. And I just did, and they liked it. So. So that's always been my credo. In any other situation, that would be somebody could look at that from the outside looking in and like, listen to this arrogant piece of shit. So let me give that context, right? Like Matteo has always been, in my limited perspective of his day to day, right? I've known you now going on easily a decade, 10 years plus? More than 15 years. Yeah, 15 years.
15 years. Holy shit, man. Okay. So we've known each other for a little while, and I can't 100% say I know everything about you, but in as far as what I've seen from your work, I think that there is always a part of you that is the furthest thing from risk averse, if that makes any sense. Like you're not afraid to take that risk, but within reason, even if it means it comes off, like in that example that you just said, it comes off as a tiny, like depending on who's looking at it, obviously, it comes off as like arrogant, And I think it comes from this place of growth. I remember when we did a joke to each other. Was it Chicago, where we were sitting across from each other at a show? And then you drew me.
Oh yeah.
Right?
And
Do you remember this?
Yeah.
And I drew you, right?
Yeah.
And I remember taking a look at that drawing that you did, and you were still doing Copics at that point.
Yeah.
And there was still a part of it that I was like, I think this is Matteo in his formative, exploration stage. I think you were taking on Copics, not just because everybody else was doing it, but because you were interested in seeing what you could do with it, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what I do every time. Yeah.
And I think at some point you just said, it's not interesting. What was it? Like it wasn't interesting.
It just doesn't fit. What was it? It doesn't fit my vision, the vision that I have for myself. It doesn't do the job. It doesn't do if I think about Copics, and by the way, there's amazing artists that use them, included you. You're amazing with it. I don't know if do you still use them?
I do once in a great while. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And there's Adam Hughes, other people that are amazing at it.
Yeah.
But to me, when I used it, in my hands would produce something that reminded me of a thing made of plastic, a plastic toy. I don't know. That's the feel that I had when I finished a piece made with Copic. I was like, it works. It works, but it's plastic. And every time I had that feeling that it's plastic, I just, run the fuck away from it. I don't want, I hate that feeling of plastic, and which is, it's the only way I can describe it, because that's the exact feeling that I have in my head when I think of that specific thing. And I hopefully, you're kind of getting what I'm saying. It's kind of,
I want to follow up on it, but I don't want to slow you down. Like I think it's coming from a place of like, it like synthetic, or like it's manufactured or something like that. I don't know exactly.
Manufactured. Yeah. And
okay. All right.
So I saw that, and as soon as I saw it, okay, I was like, okay, not my thing. I'll leave it to the people that really, learn to make it become organic or more, more vibrant. I don't know how to say it another way.
No, I get it.
I just left it there, and I started doing the same thing, but with a brush, because it was more, And even with brushes now, I'm learning to have a different relationship with them, and just use them in specific things, in specific situation. And I'm noticing that with the lines, I'm by using a rigid tool, a rigid instrument like a pen, a simple pen, I can, sometimes, sorry, not all the times, but I can reach that kind of roughness that at least in this moment of my life and my career, I need. I don't know like how people are gonna react to it. We'll see when book comes out. And,
no, I think, I mean, independent of how fucking people are going to react to it, which is ultimately like, listen, if you are not understanding where Matteo is coming from in regards to what he's talking about right now, clearly you are not at that part of the journey as far as like, again, let me go back to my original point. And this relates to the point that I was just about to make, which is I've always known you to go find the thing that challenges you next, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. No, right? that's you couldn't describe it better.
Yeah. Yeah, I see it in a lot of the work that you do, not just, and it's not even, sometimes it's not even obvious. Sometimes people will, we joked around with this, 3 weeks ago, when, we have our library of poses that we do at the show, you know? And by the way, that doesn't take anything away from the fact that, I'll speak personally, and I could tell that this probably is true for you as well. When we're doing those commissions, they're a lot of fun. We're not diminishing the stuff that people are paying money for. Because I think people might turn around and be like, oh, so you're just phoning it in? No, we're not phoning it in, But when you're sitting at a convention floor, as fun as those commissions are to do, it's still a job. So you have to find efficient processes that allows you to do your job well and still deliver at a very high level for people who are paying you money. So we're not phoning it in, it's not coming from that place. It's coming from a place of finding efficiencies. So there are times when you go into this efficient mode, and in your case, you're doing 15, 20 of these things at a time at one point one point in the convention. But there's always the one where I can tell you're like, this one, I'm going to challenge the efficiencies. I'm going to challenge the I need to get this done because there's 15 of these. I've always noticed at least one in each convention where it's in the ones that we used to go to together. I'm like, that's the one where he not slowed down, but there was something there similar to going from Copics to brush.
Where I saw there was something to learn.
Where like
Yeah.
Talk about that for a minute. Is that a conscious effort on your part? Is there something where you go like, it's on this list, I found something, or is it as organic as when you did that pirate image from when we were in Bologna? No, it's calculated. I have some kind of virtual, how do you say, drawer in my head of things that I saw that I think they're beautiful and might work and might make my things look better. So from time to time, I'm like, okay, this image that I'm drawing, it probably fits this kind of things that I want to try. So let's try here. Can you think of an example? Can you give a specific example where you saw it on your commissions list and you said, I don't fucking know, like, oh, Catwoman or something like that. Can you think of one in recent times?
It's small things, it's I know the way we're talking about it's gonna be sounding like, oh my God, what you have a revelation. No, it's really small things.
Yeah.
But for example,
you're right.
I think in the last Seattle they asked me for a commission of a panda from Body Bags. And I decided.
Holy shit! I thought you meant like a literal fucking panda.
Not a panda.
That's a weird,
like Panda the character.
That is a weird commission, man.
The literal evil mean girl, and
from Body Bags.
So there's the thing that I try to do from time to time, which I see in other artists, which is don't bother about the lines, because I'm usually like really attracted by drawing a lot of lines and stuff, So from time to time, I try to simplify things and just work with black against white, and that's it. So just in silhouette.
Yeah.
So there's one of her feet, one is just white, and you read the silhouette of the leg, for example. And I didn't draw anything in it. There's no line at all, and again, it's a stupid little thing, but it's one of those things that I add, and I want to learn slowly how to control them and to use them properly, eventually,
right.
in a book. The book that I'm drawing now is really line based, so I'm probably not gonna do it there. But it's a tool that I want to learn how to use better, with time. For example.
Yeah. I wish that we could cut to Sean right now. I'm like, what do you think, Sean? yeah, no, I agree with that. And then cut right back to like, cut right back from.
How about you? How do you see yourself?
I'm using a lot more like products on my face. Is that what we're talking about? Like, talking about art. I'm talking about like fucking products.
Okay,
I'm telling you, man.
Back to Sean.
There is
Sean,
so
what do
much.
you think?
There is so much that I'm putting into like making sure that my skincare regimen is fucking bananas. Is so stupid now, where I'm literally turning to my wife and saying like, what do you do? My wife is more organic, much more like natural or everything, but she does do her fair share of reading, of understanding. And so now I'm getting to a point, I think I'm going to turn 50. I turn 50 in a year, and everything, if it's downhill right now, it is a steep drop off from a cliff. I often, I turn to my wife and I'm like, do you think this stuff is working? And she goes, oh yeah, no, it's definitely working, because think about if you weren't using it. And I thought like, that's a weird way of fucking saying that.
It's still,
that's a very subtle.
She's still telling you that you look like shit. But on the other hand, she thinks
so basically what she's saying is like
doing you a favor by saying that it's still better than not using it, because otherwise you be like.
Do you see what I mean?
Horrible. Yeah. It's
If you look awful
it's an insult
right now,
in disguise,
right? Yeah. It's exactly. It's like, it sounds complimentary because I ask, is it working? She goes, absolutely, it's working, because think about what it would look like if you weren't using it, which is basically saying you're questioning the way you look. Your skin looks awful right now, but it's just awful. Yeah. If you weren't using this stuff, it would be just devastating. You would just be on the, like, you'd be like a sagging bag of silicon on your face, But anyway, that's the space that I'm in right now, as far as like where my brain is. Like, man, everything's got to be in freaking maintenance mode. So to go back to your question.
Yeah.
Everything is about challenging what I have a preconceived notion about as the thing that is, I'm doing this. It feels good. It feels comfortable.
Yeah.
Why am I doing that now? Mm-hmm. Because here's something that I've recognized, and I don't know if you do this too. There's at some point in your career, things become so automatic. Yeah. It becomes the shorthand of the thing that you learned from. Does that make sense? Yeah. And some people, they would love to be in this space where the shorthand suddenly becomes their style, and they kind of understand that that's the thing.
Sorry to interrupt, but it's kind of, it's in the family of what I call plastic as well. That's that, automatic response.
Talk about that for a little bit.
No. It was a brief intervention on what you said. It's just to say that I agree with you, and I have a kind of allergic reaction to it when I see that it happens. Well, and of course, it helps when you're in the middle of doing a book, because there's people waiting for you, and if you see that you're in a role and you find a way to solve that problem, so it's not going to be an issue for a couple of months, which means doing 2 new issues of that book. Absolutely, let's use it, but let's not be comfortable with that. Like, as soon as this book finished, we're gonna find another thing to explore, because this has become plastic.
Yeah. This is a little different than that, though, right? This is different than where you're coming from, which is, I believe, a version of growth that you don't ever want to be in stasis. You know what I mean? Like, you don't ever want to be like, this feels comfortable, and therefore, I'm going to look for the next challenge. That's something else, right? Which is just as valid, in my opinion. I just don't want to be in a space in which I'm drawing something and I'm whatever it is, whether it be marker, whether it be like ink or digital or whatever it is. I just don't want to assume that thing that I'm doing is done that way, and that's it.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm just going to render that way. I see it in Kevin Nolan. I see it in Jason Pearson. I see it in all these guys. I see it from this concept artist, that concept artist. I'll just do that because that's the way that is, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
It gets to the point now, and here's a perfect example of it. There's guys out there, and I wish I remember the traditional painter that does these amazing clouds. He does a lot of Western paintings, you know?
Okay. No, I don't.
Beautiful.
I don't know the name. But
yeah, I'll find it. We can upload it. You know, I'll tell Jamie about it.
So that Jamie might be, showing
and
something.
so I saw this guy paints. He just had this big auction and effectively sold a ton of his paintings, and now he's pretty well set off. He's pretty
okay.
Set,
So he leaves now, like he's a contemporary artist.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, anyway, his name escapes me, and that's really poor. But anyway, it gets to the point where he's not just known for it, but like not exclusively for this. But you take a look at this guy's clouds, Maddie, and you're like, Jesus Christ!
Which, by the way, clouds are one of the most difficult thing to do because the first instinct is just to have a silhouette
without derailing. Yeah, without derailing. I can spend easily 3.5 weeks, a month, a couple of months on clouds and never get to a point where I'm like, I'm happy, doing that thing.
Absolutely.
I'd literally have to copy this guy. That's my point.
Yep.
Is what I saw a brush on Procreate. It basically says it claims to capture this guy's clouds as a brush.
Oh, the specific guy's clouds.
Yeah. To stamp this brush, and you do it in you build it up, stamp 1 does this underlayer, stamp 2, stamp 3, stamp 4, stamp 5, right? It gets you close to this guy's clouds. And it made me laugh because I was like, oh, they found a way to formalize the thinking, the craft, and the execution of this guy's work, But that's what I always push back on is just, going through the motions of my own work because, I draw eyes that way. I draw hair that way. I draw jaw. I draw all the things that come natural to me, the little ticks that make up for the bags under the eyes, which implies volume of the eye socket, but I do it and I go like, okay, I used to think about that. Right. And I don't think about it anymore. And now it's just become, and it's not throwing shade in his way, but like it's just become this Mike Mignola thing where you go, there's a thing that I do there that used to imply something back in the day, or that used to communicate something back in the day, but now is just the shorthand way of I do this thing that I do because you get it. Now it's just a style. Now it's just my thing, So that's the difference that I'm talking about. Yeah. You're finding ways to challenge yourself by moving forward. I'm finding ways to constantly question what I'm doing now that comes like almost automatic, so that it doesn't go into that synthetic space. So I'm not just doing it for the sake of doing it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Makes sense. Absolutely.
Yeah. No, it's a constant, like I see a lot of art online where I ask myself, wow, that's amazing. I'm trying to think of the last thing that it's a lot of concept art. There's this guy who I really like. His name is Ryan Lang. Do you know Ryan?
Ryan Lang. Yeah, absolutely. I follow him on Instagram. He's really, really, really
Dude,
good.
On my best day.
Oh my God. He's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. On my best day, I would love to be able to just paint like that. Just do digital shit and be like, fuck, man, that guy is thinking on a completely different level.
And not only that, on Instagram, he's doing sometimes he posts stuff about that story that he's been writing and drawing, I think, with a Ronin, a samurai guy, something.
No, that's all done. That's
done.
available if you want to go. But if you want to go find it. I remember him
posting is it gonna be online? So no, it's not gonna be pages. It's gonna be panel.
No,
panel,
it's pages,
panel,
man.
Pages.
It's pages.
Okay. But he would post I don't know, there were guys fighting against big skeletons. Mm-hmm. And he posts the first version of the panel, and it's already great. And he's and then I wasn't happy, so I redrew it. So another version, which is better than the first one, actually, but still, the first one was amazing as well.
Yeah.
And then he posts the third version, which is mind-blowing. And I'm like, Jesus, I will never, like, you know how many panels I have to, give up to, like, this is the best I can do today. And I'm not gonna redraw it. And there's already like one panel in my book that sucks. Like, I hate it. It was the third page that I drew overall, the fourth page. And I hate it. And in my head, I'm like, oh, I should redo it completely. That panel, I hate it. And I think that in the end, I'm gonna end up just leaving it, because I know myself. Because there's nothing I can do.
You fucking moved on from it.
Yeah, I made peace with it.
The point
and by the way, sorry for
he's the guy
brief,
that I. No, it's all right. Sorry, it's a good conversation. I think about Ryan I think about Ryan's work on my best day and wish to have that level of polished craft. And to your point right now, like the thinking behind it, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck, man. But I take the patina, the top layer of his work, and I try to apply it onto mine. The difference is, and I see it a lot in concept art, that's where people stop. I see it a lot where I go like, I know where you got that from, but you've taken that thing, you basically Photoshopped, lasso tooled it out, copy, paste, Control C, Control V, and put it onto your work and say, oh, that's influenced by so-and-so. In this case, let's say it's the Clouds guy or it's Ryan Lang, but you're like, that's really flattering, right? But the thing that I would hope that you do is get into the thinking of what that is. I'm going to guess, similar to what we're talking about now, Ryan's gotten to the point where he just does things automatically, and maybe he's not thinking. Maybe I don't want to take any credit away from him. Maybe he's thinking clearly. He's thinking it over and over again.
I'm pretty sure he watches the podcast, so he'll let us know.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He tells 100 of his friends, and those friends tell 100 of each of their friends. So totally cool. But anyway. So like, I think what I get hung up on is like, why is he doing all of those things? Because there are times when I'm looking at his art and putting it under analysis where I go like, that lighting right there doesn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. Like everything is staying consistent, right? Until he gets to this point where he's like, I don't think that makes any sense. But I think that's where he's taking that creative license. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's going like, this doesn't make any sense, but boy, this is going to fucking work.
Yeah.
This makes the idea, the point of this piece, which is like communication. This is going to communicate this concept so much better. But I think that's where things get lost whenever people are just like doing the Control C, Control V, is this, they're just porting things over without the thinking. And to me, that's where I stop whenever I'm stealing from people. Yeah. And just like, I can steal the hell out of this, but if I don't know what I'm doing with it, all I do is get stuck stealing and applying,
Yeah. I know
what do you think, Jar of Pickles?
Let us know.
Good. Thank you so much for.
Okay. Are you sure? Is this your definitive answer? All right. Clear. Awesome.
Thank you, Jar of Pickles. Thank you for
pickles.
Thank you for fucking contributing. That's actually a question that we should ask Sean. Like, we abuse him so fucking much. You know what I mean?
He kind of likes it.
I think he does, right? He kind of. Yeah. Here's Sean said something during our trip in Italy that was very sort of. I hope he doesn't mind me sharing it. So if he does, now you know what? I don't give a shit. So like, he shared with me something while we were walking through. I think it was that time. This is going to derail this conversation, but I remember walking through this place. Clearly, Jason had been there before. Jason Schachter has the unenviable job of dealing with us, not just setting up, but obviously trying to sell our art and making sure he's got our personalities in check, But I remember Jason walking us through this town, and we did like 5 loops. You weren't there because you were smart. You stayed home with your family. You spent quality time. But we were walking around this city 3 or 4 times looking for this so-called the golden, it was like the Shangri-La of gelato places. Yeah. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah. He had been there before. We were walking around this town, and we must have walked through the same part of town 4 times. And by the way, he wasn't doing it from memory. He was on his phone. He knew the name of the place, but we walked around and we could not find it. It took Mo again, I have such a high admiration for Jason's girlfriend. It took Mo on that third time to go, Jay, this way, you know? And I go like, what the fuck? Why did we walk around 3 times? And Mo was finally had enough of it on the third time. And I think that's their relationship, you know, like on the third time, Mo finally says, fuck you.
It's like a parent with their kid, you know, just all right. Okay. Enough of it now. All right.
Yeah, I think that's my point when it comes to Sean. But let me finish this part of the story. Yeah. You know, Mo says like between the two of us, we make one person. I think that's very charming and lovely of her to say. She
covers 99.9%. So yeah,
absolutely.
Jason is
but
the other.
It doesn't make it any less true. Between the two of them, they make one person. So Sean and I were walking through, and I'm like, fuck, man, this is the 4th time we've been through this part of town, you know? And Sean was just happy as a clam, just smiling, you know, and he doesn't fucking care. And I asked him, like, what is that, dude? You know? And he says to me, most of the time in the situation that I'm in at home, I have to be the responsible adult.
Okay, so it's one of those moments for him. It's the moment where he's just releasing. So whatever happens, even if he
doesn't have
insulted
a fucking care in the world.
Yeah.
So if it's the 3rd time around, if it's the 20th time around, he's not doing any of the thinking, right?
It's still better than, you know, when he has to take responsibility for everything. So
exactly.
You know.
In a way, none of the attention. He doesn't have to put outward attention towards absolutely. Anything. Right.
I wonder.
I think it's the same. For this podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. Right? And I wonder.
Where suddenly he is the one being abused.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have to do, he just sits there and he's just okay,
it's still better than at home. So.
Yeah.
Hey,
that's
Steph.
not what I was trying to say, but that's what you're saying. Okay, I get it.
But to your point, we should try and test like how much abuse he can take. You know, we should have a kind of counter and try. Okay, 20 minutes of abuse, like, you know, from sci-fi movies, you know, from the 80s, like. Let's try and increase a little bit the level of abuse and see when it cracks. Like he might, you know, to be honest with you, he might be able to endure a full hour, you know, and it's still gonna be better. I was gonna say, man,
I was gonna say that I think he has a high tolerance for people, you know, people using him as and that it sounds bad, but it's like, you know, being the butt of a joke. But I also believe it's in the right company, if that makes any sense.
Oh, yeah,
like with us, Sean takes it like a champ. You know what I mean? Like with people who, I think with people he doesn't quite know or he doesn't quite comfortable with, I know this because he'll come back to us and talk about it. This fucking guy is talking shit, blah, 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 blah. And I thought like, when we do that same exact thing to you, but you seem to be, you know, you're like, you treat it like it's like, yeah, guys, that's so, you know, he's a funny dumb kid when he's hanging out with us. And here's the thing, he's the elder between the two of us.
That shouldn't be, older, you know, I should be the punching bag.
Yeah. But no, he's totally imperfect. He's totally fucking perfectly happy.
Yep.
Sean, you know that we love you. You know that we did this kind of impromptu. We'd love for you to be here hanging out with us, pal, but I hope that you're doing okay, whatever it is that you're doing. It also, if you're not here because you choose not to be with us for a day, just based on these fucking jokes, I get it. You know, I understand why you want to take a break.
Where you find out that he's been trying to enter the conversation, like he's been waiting in the waiting room of the app.
I've seen the prompt come up on the screen a bunch of times, and I keep declining because I don't want him to fucking be here. It's through his good graces that we're both here hanging out.
Yeah,
and absolutely. I really, like I said, going back to the thing that we were talking about earlier, I love hanging out with you guys. You know, so if it's an opportunity to just be like, oh, cool, we're just gonna talk shit for an hour, you know, because. And this is weird now because it never comes into focus until, you know, I remember Sean talking about this years ago where he's like, dude, the moment you have kids, and it's typical, you know what I mean? Yeah. When a guy has children, you go like, you hear that from them and you're like, Jesus fucking Christ, can you say something original? You know, like, oh, the moment you have kids, blah, blah, blah happens, blah, blah, blah happens. Fast forward to like right now, we both have kids. And when he never has to say it anymore.
Mine is better than yours,
because
let's be honest, but yeah. All right.
Yeah. I don't know. I've seen your kid, and the only way that he's quote unquote better is because he looks healthier. Your kid is fucking huge. And by the way, respect to your girlfriend for pumping out that big fucking ginormous
Actually, he became
child.
This big later. Like when he was born, it was pretty standard. So yeah, we're feeding him well.
Still though, man, to your girlfriends, I look at your child sitting at the edge of the table. I'll tell you a story. Like, you guys did this thing when we all had this family dinner, which, by the way, thank you so much for taking us to that last restaurant where, you know, you rent. I think you found a way to rent that entire area at the bottom part of that restaurant. What a fucking, I felt like I felt out of place because my lifestyle is not that. Bottom part of the restaurant, you know what I mean? Like, that's somebody else, you know, that's like Brian, the company that we were keeping. That's very, you know, that's very Brian Stelfreeze. That's very like Dave Johnson, because they deserve to be in that space. You know, me, I'm looking and I'm like, I got in here by accident. They just didn't have the heart to kick me out. But anyway, so here we are, it's a U-shaped table, and you know, your girlfriend and your boy sat at the end of the table just out of convenience, right? Because it was easier to get him. You know, I understand getting kids in and out of a place when they start getting fussy. I totally understand it with the strategy. But I remember you brought this child seat, you know?
Oh yeah.
That kind of like clamps at the end of the table.
Yeah.
Right? And I thought like, fuck, man, he's going to tip the table over. That kid is so fucking huge. He's going to tip these tables. This thing is just going to seesaw right off the edge.
Actually, Francesca
put him at the edge of the.
Yeah. Francesca had to pay, you know, a lot of attention for the table not flipping off, because he was actually.
I saw both. Yeah. I saw Francesca's foot and Elia Bonetti, who was sitting next to me.
Yeah.
Their foot was on the pedestal of the table.
Yeah. I think he's like...
It is to say that's if there's anything better about your kid, he looks healthy. He's handsome as hell. Thank God he doesn't look anything like you.
No, he just got the color of my eyes, which is a beautiful color. It's just kind of greenish.
Yeah. That's the thing. If somebody were to murder you right now and scoop out your eyes with a spoon, I'm like, I get it. He's everything else you can leave. No, you can, but those eyes, you got to take them.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, by the way, I've been meaning to ask you since the beginning of the episode when you started asking me stuff about the career and whatnot. Did you always like at the beginning of your career, was your goal being simply just a comic book artist? Or it was in general, was it in general being an artist, an illustrator?
Yeah, that's a great question. No, that's a great question. It had a lot to do, and I think you know this about my personality. The moment you say, oh no, you can't fucking do that, I'm like, oh, fuck you. I'm going to go do that thing. Right.
Yeah.
Because it's a challenge to put a middle finger to your face, you know, to be like, and then that's the reason why everything is so externally motivated. You know, later on in life, I had to find ways to motivate myself internally as opposed to externally. It had a lot to do with the fact that when I was growing up, I love my family. Every single one of them, scholars. Yeah. I tell this story and it's getting old by now, but when I was growing up, my bed was next to or under the shadow boxes of their individual accomplishments, their frames on the wall. In the Philippines, when you go to an academy, at the end of the year, when you become valedictorian, they pin a medal for valedictorian on your graduation gown, you know?
Yeah. My
cousins were so far ahead. They all took turns being valedictorians. I'm an only child, so I grew up with them, you know? So they would take these medals and put them in frames and put them in shadow boxes that just hung over my bed. And when you're coming from from a developing country, right? And especially from our family where we didn't have a ton, not to say that we were impoverished, but we didn't have a ton. We lived very conservatively. The only feasible way back then that people could think about was through education and scholastics,
in
right?
studying and education.
And studying, good grades, go to college, that whole thing. I didn't care for that. Right. So the moment I realized I wanted to become an artist, there was a hesitancy. I wouldn't say pushback, but there was a hesitancy of like, how are you going to do this? The only way we know is this formula, you know? So to go back to answer your question, the reason what motivated me to become wanting an artist, number one, it was fun, you know, but number two, there was always that challenge in the back of my head to be like, you guys are telling me that I can't do this. Now, mind you, it wasn't against my family. It was more at that point. It was just a mental and emotional construct. You know,
I know what you mean.
To say like, I'm gonna fucking push back on the idea that I can't be successful at it. Thank God it was fun. Imagine if they couldn't tell me, if they told me, "No, you can't be like a trash collector, like some dirty, awful job." That I have a high level of respect for people who do it, right? But clearly doesn't seem like it's very fun. Imagine one day I just woke up and realized, oh my God, this is not very fun for me.
It's so funny because Go ahead.
No, I was going to say there was another question that I wanted to ask in regards to like, we've been doing this, like, you know, this relates to what you're talking about right now, where it's like, has it always been motivated by art? And from there, you start setting up goals for yourself and getting better as a craftsman. But has it always been about comics? You know, that's something that we'll say because we're an hour and 5 minutes into it. But I'm like, I always think about like, what keeps bringing me back, you know? Like it, and for me specifically, maybe not for you, because I saw the pages that you were drawing and I don't think it's related to it. But for me, it's always been superhero comics. Like what makes me want to keep coming back to this thing that, man, there's a whole franchise now of movies that probably in as far as the fantasy, the visualization of superheroes, you know, like I think it's taken it to the nth level. And yet I still want to go back and draw superhero comics. We'll save that for another time. I'm going to hit the stop button. And we'll get back to talking about that later on. Mateo, thanks, pal.
Thank you, brother.
We'll do this again next time with the Mr. Jar of Pickles himself. So here we go.
This is the Inkpulp podcast. This is the Inkpulp podcast. Comics, hip hop, life.